How's it going, YouTube? Happy Saturday. There's a few things I want to talk about with this video. I'll try to keep them succinct. With my track record, that's not really a guarantee of anything, but we'll see if I can make it happen this time around, all right? First up, if you as an owner-operator are offered a load to Normal, Illinois, the town of Normal, Illinois, and the receiver is Rivian, aka the electric truck and utility vehicle manufacturer, my recommendation is that you decline that opportunity, because Rivian is either so disorganized with their parts receiving, or they are so badly short-staffed that you're looking at right now, minimum as of today, July the 29th, 2023, minimum of a 24-hour wait to be unloaded. Whether you've got basic parts, windshields, I don't know, maybe the battery unloading goes faster, but I've got a load of windshields on right now, and I checked in at the facility 26 hours ago because this is my third load with Rivian, for Rivian at this location. And unfortunately for me, my luck in getting unloaded within 24 hours of check-in has been broken. Very sad. I know, very sad for me. But my lost time hopefully may be your gain, because while I'm going to get an okay amount of money in detention and or layover, it's still a lot of time lost that I could have been spending at home, or at least anywhere but here. But I gambled, came up snake eyes, now here I am. So if you work for Rivian and they're shipping and receiving, and you're watching this, please understand, we hate waiting. You're costing us money, you're costing your company money, and whatever reason you have for not being able to get trucks that are OTR, not your, site-to-site delivery or closed loop delivery system or your local vendors or whatever the situation ends up being, if you guys can't get us in and out of the doors, quickly, meaning less than 12 hours, ideally less than 6 hours, don't put your loads out up for load board use. Don't get carriers that can do trailer drops to be your vendors. Go call Werner, go call Schneider, go call Swift, JB Hunt, whoever. Get trailers dropped. Don't make us wait 12, 24, 48, 60 hours to be unloaded because we don't like it. It costs us money and it costs you money. So it's going to be a long time before I do another Rivian load, unless it's one of the situations where I feel like accepting the fact that I'm going to be doing a 34-hour reset at a truck stop here in Normal. Now, if I lived here in Normal, wouldn't be a problem. If I needed to do a 34, wouldn't be a problem. But I was trying to get home, so now it's a problem. But, that's life. It is what it is. You just gotta make lemonade when the lemons are offered to you. So, thankfully it's a nice evening. Yesterday the heat broke. Last night, more accurately, when a big thunderstorm rolled through and has cooled things off pretty nicely. So tonight's going to be pretty good. I shouldn't have to run the engine at all overnight, which is really nice because I still need to replace the alternator on my APU. And once I get that done, then I can basically just stop idling altogether and rely on my APU. But until I have time to get that alternator sorted out, pretty hard to do. And considering that it's entirely possible that the moment I were to start that project here at this truck stop, I would get the call from Rivian saying, hey, we got a door for you, come on over, get unloaded. And then where would I be? Stuck with a torn apart APU, parts everywhere, and now I gotta go get unloaded. Not ideal. It's one of those things where you just don't screw yourself if you can avoid it. Only be screwed one way at a time, right? All right. 5 minutes in, time for a topic switch. Let's talk about yellow freight. Now, Yellow is a famous brand of, logistics company. They've been around for 99 years, and unfortunately for them, they are now in bankruptcy, Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I think it is, maybe it's Chapter 9. I don't know. It's bankruptcy. And they've basically shut down, and they're beginning to wind down the whole business and the whole operation, which means a lot of good people, dock workers, drivers, mechanics, office support, even management. They're all basically either already or about to be out of a job, as a company they've spent anywhere from, a couple of years with to 25, 30, 40 years with goes under. It's really sad to see. I don't know the ins and outs of how or why Yellow has collapsed, but it is definitely going to be felt through the industry, because a lot of other companies will suddenly start picking up drivers from Yellow, which is good for them because it'll mean that those drivers will get jobs, and those companies that have the flexibility to bring on those drivers will get good employees. At least, most likely, overall, that will be the case. There's always going to be a few bad apples to try to spoil the bunch. That's just the way it is. Because when Celadon went under the end of 19, Werner put out a blast, an email blast to all of us drivers, talking about that situation and saying, yeah, Werner's, kind of preempting all of us going out to try to recruit Celadon drivers, saying we've already reached out to Celadon drivers that we know of, or that we've been able to get contact information from them through Celadon. I forget how it all worked out, but anyway you slice it, Werner basically went out and tried to get the very best of the driver pool that Celadon had and recruit them and get them driving Werner trucks at the end of 19, because Celadon went under just before the holidays, but just before Christmas, I think it was 2019. So before the pandemic kicked off, really, Celadon collapsed, and they were in auto parts. They primarily did a lot of work with auto parts shipping. But anyway, maybe it's 2020. I don't know. I believe it was 19, but I think it might have also been 20. I really don't remember exactly. But anyway, so Yellow Freight's going that way, unfortunately. That's right. They cite as one of their contributing factors to their demise the unwillingness of their Teamster representatives to negotiate with them on a new deal, a new labor deal. So Yellow is kind of blaming the union for why they couldn't stay in business. Now, I don't know how much stock to put in that. I'm only very, very small amount of information aware on the whole Yellow Freight situation, because they're an LTL company. I don't do much in the way of LTL freight. Every now and again I might get a load that might qualify as LTL, because maybe it's just a couple of skids, or it's one module of something, or maybe 10 pallets or 20 or 15 pallets, maybe nothing that would really fill up my whole truck, and that still scales out at like under 10,000 pounds of freight, if even. So that might qualify as LTL freight, but it's going into a 53-foot dry van. So, call it what you want, I guess. But that is a business methodology that I know nothing about. It's not my wheelhouse. And that was Yellow specialty. Saw those double pup trailers all the time, typically around major metropolitan areas. Now they're going to be seen only as they're being towed to other locations when Yellow is parted out, and different companies pick up different assets from Yellow to add to their own inventories, which will be good for the equipment. At least it'll get put to use. But the sudden absence of that company is going to create opportunities for Old Dominion, Saya, Dayton Freight, Holland, Estes, and probably several other LTL companies, meaning less than truckload companies, for those of you who don't know the term, to increase their market share, pick up new customers, grow their business, expand their business, generate more revenue, which is good for their employees. So it's just one of those ways that capitalism ends up kind of functioning. The strong survive, the weak perish. This is kind of the way of the world. So, yeah. But it is unfortunate because in the wake of UPS getting their deal done with their Teamsters drivers, it's unfortunate Yellow couldn't get something similar done to stay in business, but, you know, it's just the way the ball bounces sometimes. Lastly, what I want to talk about to close this out is the complaints about, from truckers in some cases, to the DAT load board, the DAT board, about why they're still allowing Surge Transportation to post their loads on the DAT board when Surge Transportation is in bankruptcy, Chapter 11 bankruptcy right now. Now, Triumph Business Capital, or Triumph, whatever their corporate name they're putting on the deal is, they have become, what I discovered yesterday, is the debtor in possession of Surge, essentially. Which means that somehow, some way, Triumph is going to be directly involved in making sure that the money that is owed to carriers gets paid out. At least that's the ideal situation. The reality is that I'm sure there's still going to be a lot of guys left holding an empty sack when all's said and done, because they won't get what they're owed, or they'll get less than what they're owed, or they'll just straight up get nothing because of, these issues or whatever legal process they initiated before Triumph came into the picture. But Surge Transportation going into bankruptcy should be a bit of an eye-opener for a lot of us. And it would definitely behoove us to be very much more selective about which brokers we do business with. Like for me, for example, I do business currently with 4 brokers. And to my knowledge, and based on my experience with them, they're 4 very solvent brokers. The one I do the least amount of business with right now, not by choice, but just kind of by circumstance, is Allen Lund. Now, I like them a lot. They've got different satellite offices all across the country, and each of those offices has a different way of doing business, but they're all still under the same core aegis of operation. So there's going to be the same general quality of service across the board. And I like Allen Lund. I've had good experiences with them. I think they're a good broker. And everything I know about them seems to suggest they are quite solvent and they have a very good business model. So, that's good news. But the reason I don't do much business with them is because usually when I get their email every weekday for their available loads, a lot of those loads I look at, depending on what zone I'm in, either they're not available that day, or the load isn't picking up within a reasonable distance, or the load is going somewhere I don't want to go, or pick your reason, pick your excuse, pick your, I guess, whatever you want. But it's just one of those things. I'd like to do more business with them. It's just that due to circumstances more or less beyond my control, it's just not been able to happen, at least to the frequency that I would prefer, because I want to be in a much better relationship with Allen Lund so that when they see me calling in on the load, they understand, okay, this is a guy we can work with. He's going to get the job done. We're going to get our paperwork. We're going to get everything sorted out proper. The next broker I do, the least amount of business with, second least, would be Coyote Logistics. Now, this Rivian load I'm on right now that's been just so much fun is a Coyote load. Now, in Coyote's defense, the broker did tell me, my guy at Coyote did tell me, yeah, this is a Rivian load, and there's going to be some wait time. Right now, according to our information, it's going to be a possible 24 to 60-hour wait to be unloaded. And I'm like, well, I know I've done Rivian before. I know how this works. It's a gamble. We'll see what we can do about it. We negotiated the rate. I got more or less kind of what I wanted, what I thought was going to be good for me. And now I'm going to get a lot more than that because of detention pay and layover pay. So, you know, that's going to work in my favor, except that I'm sitting in a truck stop. Thankfully, it's a nice truck stop, picking my nose, literally and figuratively, waiting for my unload. But my guy at Coyote is a good guy. I like him a lot. He's honest with me. You know, whenever we talk, you know, it's good business. You know, he's not beating around the bush trying to lowball me or trying to just get me out of load so he can look good for his supervisor or whatever. You know, he's an honest broker, and I like him for that. So I recommend getting in with Coyote if you haven't already, because as a company, I like them. Now, they are a UPS company. They are owned by UPS, at least as far as I can tell, or that's what they say on their website. So in that respect, because of UPS's size, that in theory means that Coyote is backed by a very solvent company and has good corporate support behind it. However, it also means that it's possible if Coyote just doesn't do their business properly, that they could be shut down real quick by UPS, and that could be a problem. But so far, all indications are that Coyote is going to be doing well for the interim and also the long term. After them, my top two brokers. I think my number 2 broker in terms of business volume is TQL, aka Total Quality Logistics. Now, a lot of folks don't like TQL for different reasons. Some of those reasons are very well deserved, because TQL doesn't usually have very good rates depending on the region. Other times you get a really good rate with them. It just kind of depends. But in terms of the people that I've spoken with at TQL, I've had a good experience with the individual brokers, even when it's like, okay, well, you're offering a rate that's way too low. I'm not going to be able to do that because that rate does not meet my requirements or my needs to be able to operate the way I need to operate or meet, you know, my financial needs. So I'm just not going to be able to do this load. And those exchanges have been positive. At least, well, they've been neutral. So TQL, at least in theory, does not have a record of me saying, yeah, I know you guys have sucky rates, you're awful, can you do this, how do you sleep at night offering us these garbage rates, those would all be valid complaints and criticisms, but TQL is also a massive corporate broker, so they're probably looking at their margins as well in the, shall we say, less than healthy freight market in the US right now, or North America as a whole. So sometimes you get a decent rate with them, sometimes you don't. I think my number 1 broker right now is C.H. Robinson in terms of business volume. Now, I've got a guy at C.H. Robinson, I like him a lot, really cool guy. He's based in the East Coast area. But we have a pretty good working relationship. Whenever I call him to talk about a load, you know, he works with me in a very honest capacity. You know, he goes to bat for me on some loads every now and again. He's very transparent with me. So overall, my experience with C.H. Robinson has been very, very positive. And for my authority being 60 days old, just over 60 days old, it's good for me to have at least 2 brokers that I have not only just a contact with, but also what I like to think is a positive reputation with, in order to ensure that, you know, when I call in to book a load, or when I book a load with them through their app or whatever, they see my MC come up and they say, okay, this guy delivers, he tracks, gets it done. You know, we don't have any issues with this guy. This is a carrier we want to keep in our portfolio. We want to keep doing business with this guy. At least that's the way I like to think about it. Honestly, I know I'm just one MC number in their Rolodex or their roster of literally tens of thousands. And as far as those massive brokers are concerned, as long as they don't see, you know, a red check mark in their system, they don't care who I am or what I'm doing, as long as there's no red check mark or red X or whatever their negative impression or negative remark is about a broker or about a carrier. So, you know, it is what it is. It's unfortunate for me that I'm on this load, because I knew there was a chance to be snake bitten, but I gambled, came up snake eyes. But that happens sometimes. You just gotta be able to deal with it, and you've got to be able to not lose your cool and, you know, cause problems for yourself you don't need to worry about causing. Because in the defense of Coyote Logistics, who I booked this load with, they did say in their rate con may take 24 hours minimum to unload. Okay, so just before I started making this video, I called them up and said, hey, it's been 24 hours since my appointment time. You know, can you reach out to them and see if they're going to get to me anytime soon? Because it's been 24 hours, and that's what the rate con said, minimum 24 hours to allow for. I was hoping I'd get lucky and it'd be less than 14, less than 10, but alas, here we are. Hopefully this will get off my truck in the next, soon, I guess. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of an unfortunate weekend. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Anyway, YouTube, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you down the road. Or in this case, up the road.